Your option to buy an affordable Chinese-made electric vehicle is tonight under threat.
This is probably by far the more important BYD model we're going to see today. It's not actually new. It's been out for a little while in the Chinese market. This is the BYD Seagull.
For years, China has been changing things up in the automotive world with a strategy that's as bold as it is effective, launching electric cars at prices that make you do a double take. Again and again, they've found ways to create EVs that deliver decent performance at costs so low, they've left legacy car manufacturers scratching their heads. But now, China's gone and done something that's causing even more of a stir. They've unveiled an electric car that seems too good to be true. The BYD Seagull. The BYD Seagull is a tiny, unassuming EV that's managed to send shock to the industry. First impressions? It's not trying to look like a futuristic spaceship or scream, "Look at me," with flashy designs. Nope, it's quiet, almost suspiciously so, but that's where the charm lies. In a world obsessed with extravagant EV prototypes and price tags that make your wallet cry, the Seagull has arrived with an absurdly low starting price of around $11,000. And here's the kicker. It promises a driving range of 200 miles. On paper, those specs almost sound like the kind of thing car enthusiasts would laugh off as a pipe dream. A car that's dirt cheap and doesn't skimp on range. Please. Yet here it is, rolling off production lines and onto the streets of China, turning heads and upending expectations. If you're a big-shot automaker sitting in a fancy boardroom, this is the kind of news that ruins your day. The Seagull's price-to-performance ratio isn't just competitive, it's downright threatening. It's forcing established brands to rethink their strategies, and fast.
Throwing its hat into the ring is BYD with this model, the Seagull.
BYD is no stranger to the EV game. They're one of the biggest names in the industry, consistently pushing the envelope with innovative tech and aggressive pricing. Unlike many companies struggling to balance cost and quality, BYD seems to have found the secret sauce, and the Seagull is proof of that. One reason for this success is BYD's vertical integration. They don't just assemble cars, they make a lot of the components in-house, including batteries, which are typically one of the most expensive parts of an EV. By cutting out middlemen and streamlining production, BYD has managed to slash costs without sacrificing too much in terms of performance or reliability. The Seagull is a prime example of this strategy in action. It's a compact car, designed for urban environments where agility and efficiency matter most. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of higher-end EVs, but that's not the point. The Seagull is built for people who need a practical, affordable, and eco-friendly way to get from A to B, and it does that remarkably well. The Seagull isn't just a car, it's a statement. It's BYD saying, we can make electric vehicles accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy. And that's a big deal. For years, one of the biggest barriers to EV adoption has been cost. While luxury EVs from Tesla and other brands have made headlines, they've also been out of reach for the average consumer. The Seagull changes that narrative, offering an option that's affordable without feeling like a compromise. But this isn't just a win for consumers, it's a wake-up call for competitors. Established automakers can't ignore the Seagull's success. If they want to stay relevant, they'll need to figure out how to compete with BYD's pricing and efficiency. That could mean investing in new technologies, rethinking production processes, or even forming partnerships to share resources. Whatever the solution, one thing's clear: the Seagull has raised the stakes, and this is just the beginning. If BYD can pull off something as impressive as the Seagull at such a low price point, what's stopping them from scaling up? A future where electric cars dominate the roads feels a lot closer thanks to this plucky little EV. And while that might sound like great news for the planet, it's bound to cause sleepless nights for executives at rival companies. With its sharp looks on the outside, you might be wondering if the BYD Seagull's interior can keep up with that vibe. What are the main features of the BYD Seagull's interior? The BYD Seagull's interior brings a fresh, youthful vibe that feels both modern and playful. It's designed to stand out without being too over the top.
This one actually has distinction over its bigger brother. And here's a little fun fact about BYD's design,
making it a great choice for drivers who want a bit of personality in their car. The whole look is tied together with an angular design theme that mirrors the sharp lines of the car's exterior. The dashboard has this really cool wing design.
You know, they've all got rapid acceleration, fairly soft steering, comfortable suspension. They're not that different from each other in terms of the driving experience.
Which, fun fact, is inspired by a seagull's wing. BYD has been using this design language in their Ocean series, so if you've seen those models, you'll notice the similarity. The color scheme inside the Seagull is anything but boring. BYD has combined a classic black base with a light greyish blue tone and added pops of highlighter green stitching for some extra flair. It's the kind of interior that feels vibrant and fresh, appealing to younger drivers or anyone tired of bland, monotone car cabins. Technology is a big deal inside the Seagull, and BYD hasn't skimped here. The centerpiece is a 10.1-inch rotatable touchscreen. This screen is pretty neat because you can switch it between horizontal and vertical orientations, depending on what you prefer or what's more convenient for the app or feature you're using.
Android Auto is on, but it does rotate. That's actually pretty nifty.
Alongside that, there's a digital instrument cluster that comes in either a 5-inch or 7-inch size, depending on the model you go for. It displays all the essential driving info right where you need it, and it's crisp and easy to read. For those who like tactile controls, the Seagull hasn't gone full touchscreen. There are physical buttons on the dashboard and steering wheel, so you don't have to deal with fumbling through menus while driving.
By a 10.1-inch screen. Now this screen houses not just the infotainment system.
Plus, there's a wireless charging pad for your phone, which is a small but handy touch that modern drivers will appreciate. Comfort-wise, the Seagull balances sporty and practical. The front seats are bucket style, which might feel a little fancy for a compact car, but they do add to the sporty vibe. In terms of space, the rear cargo area isn't massive. It offers about 130 litres of space with all the seats up, but fold down the rear seats and you can expand that to 930 litres, which is impressive for a car this size. If you're the type to haul groceries, sports gear, or a weekend's worth of camping supplies, you'll have no problem making it work. The higher trims of the Seagull, like the Freedom and Flying editions, come with a few extra perks. Heated front seats are included, which is a blessing in colder climates, and the driver's seat is 6-way electrically adjustable. That means you can tweak it just right for maximum comfort, whether you're cruising around the city or tackling a longer road trip. For 2025, BYD has introduced a few upgrades to keep things fresh. The sealing fabric has been improved, making it more durable and less prone to wear and tear. There are also new interior color options, including Dune Pink and Ocean Blue. These new tones give the interior a more cohesive, harmonious look, perfect for anyone who likes their car to feel a little more personalized. On top of that, the air conditioning system has been enhanced across all trims, so everyone gets a little more comfort, no matter which model they choose. So, with all these features packed into the Seagull, how does it stack up against other wallet-friendly EVs? How does it compare to other affordable EVs? The BYD Seagull is turning heads as one of the most competitive affordable electric cars out there, and it's stacking up well against other budget-friendly EVs like the Hyundai Insta and the Dacia Spring. These three cars are all aimed at drivers who want a reliable, eco-friendly ride without blowing their budget, but they each bring something a little different to the table. Starting with the Seagull, this little EV is making waves with two battery options. You've got the smaller 30.08 kWh battery that gives you about 190 miles of range, and a larger 38.88 kWh option that stretches that to 252 miles. That's a lot of range for such a compact car, especially in this price bracket. The Hyundai Insta is a bit of a wildcard here. Its exact range details aren't widely available yet, but it's clear Hyundai is positioning it as a city-friendly EV that can handle the daily grind. Then there's the Dacia Spring, which has a WLTP certified range of about 140 miles, thanks to its smaller battery. It's a decent choice for short trips or urban commutes, but it doesn't match the Seagull when it comes to long-distance potential. The BYD Seagull isn't exactly a speed demon, but it's no slouch either. It tops out at 81 mph and has a reputation for being sprightly around town. The Hyundai Insta's performance details are a little under wraps, but since it's built for city life, it's safe to assume it's more about zippy maneuvering than outright speed. The Dacia Spring, on the other hand, is the slowest of the bunch, with a top speed of 78 mph and a modest 44 horsepower under the hood. It's definitely more of a get-you-there vehicle than a thrill ride. Inside, the Seagull steps up its game with a surprisingly modern and well-equipped interior. There's a 10.1-inch rotating infotainment screen, synthetic leather seats, and a solid list of safety features like airbags and electronic stability control.
Android Auto is on, but it does rotate. That's actually pretty nifty.
It's clear that BYD has put a lot of thought into making this little EV as safe as possible, both in everyday driving and in those rare moments when things might go wrong. The Seagull comes equipped with an anti-lock braking system, or ABS, which keeps the wheels from locking up if you slam the brakes. It's especially useful in slippery conditions or during sudden stops. Paired with ABS is electronic brake force distribution, which adjusts the braking pressure to each wheel to keep the car stable and balanced. Then there's the vehicle stability control system, which steps in if the car starts to lose its grip, adjusting engine power and braking individual wheels to help you stay in control. Traction control is another big one, ensuring that your wheels don't spin out on slick roads or when you're accelerating hard. One of the more thoughtful touches is the crash sensor. In the unfortunate event of an accident, it automatically unlocks the doors and switches on the hazard lights. This small detail could make a big difference in a stressful situation, helping passengers get out safely and signaling to others that help is needed. If you've ever had to stop on a hill, you'll appreciate Hill Start Assist Control, which keeps the car from rolling backward when you're getting going. And if you're heading downhill, the Downhill Assist Control takes over to manage your speed, so you don't have to ride the brakes. The Seagull's passive safety features are just as impressive. It's got airbags in all the right places. Driver, passenger and curtain airbags provide a solid cushion in case of a collision. For families, ISOFIX mounts make it easy to securely install child seats, giving parents one less thing to worry about. The car's body structure is another highlight, built with 61% high-strength steel to better absorb and distribute impact forces. Front and side impact beams add an extra layer of protection, reinforcing the car's ability to withstand crashes. If you're into techie safety extras, the Seagull doesn't disappoint. While not standard on all models, higher trims may include features like adaptive cruise control, which adjusts your speed to maintain a safe distance from the car ahead, and lane keeping assist, which nudges the car back into its lane if you start to drift. Automated emergency braking is another game changer, stepping in to apply the brakes if a collision seems imminent. Even parking is made easier with a rear camera and parking sensors, which help you avoid those embarrassing or expensive bumps and scrapes. The Seagull has done well in safety tests too, earning a 3A rating that reflects its focus on keeping everyone inside as safe as possible. It scored particularly well for collision safety, with nearly perfect marks for side impacts and whiplash protection. For a car in this price range, these results are pretty impressive and speak to BYD's commitment to safety. It's clear BYD wanted to offer something that feels a little more premium despite the budget-friendly price tag. The Hyundai Insta, from what we know, leans into tech with dual 10.25-inch screens, vehicle-to-load capability for powering other devices, and even a heat pump to keep things cozy in colder weather. The Dacia Spring keeps things simple and functional with fewer frills. It does have a front trunk for extra storage, but it lacks V2L and other fancy extras. The Hyundai Insta's pricing hasn't been officially announced yet, but it's expected to stay competitive, especially in Europe. As for the Dacia Spring, it starts at roughly €16,000, which converts to about $17,700. That's nearly double the Seagull's starting price in China, making the Spring feel a little less appealing unless simplicity is your top priority. Design-wise, the BYD Seagull has a slightly wider body than the Hyundai Insta, which could translate to a bit more room inside. The Insta, meanwhile, is compact and clearly designed with tight urban spaces in mind. The Dacia Spring leans into its basic, utilitarian look and keeps things small and straightforward. While all three vehicles focus on practicality, the Seagull and Insta seem to aim for a more polished experience, while the Spring embraces its minimalist identity. But a car's worth isn't just about price and design. Let's talk about how the Seagull actually performs when it hits the road. How efficient is the BYD Seagull in real-world driving? The BYD Seagull's efficiency in real-world driving is a mixed bag, depending on how and where you drive, the weather, and a few other factors. Like most EVs, it doesn't always match the shiny numbers you see in marketing materials, but it still holds its own when you take a closer look at how it performs day to day. On paper, the Seagull offers two options: a smaller battery that claims 305 km and a larger one promising up to 405 km. Those are numbers based on the CLTC standard, which tends to be a bit optimistic. In real-world conditions, the larger battery tends to deliver closer to 320 km per charge, which is still respectable for a car at this price point.
But what I want to know is this one compromise too many to fit that price, or do they have a little gem on their hand?
Seasonal changes also play a role. In the warmer months of spring, summer and autumn, you can expect to get over 80% of the advertised range, especially in stop-and-go city driving. Winter, though, is another story. The colder temperatures knock the range down to around 70%, which is pretty typical for EVs since batteries don't love the cold. BYD claims the Seagull uses about 9.1 kilowatts per 100 kilometers under the CLTC standard for the 38 kilowatt class model. However, when you take it out on real roads, the story changes. If you're cruising at a steady 90 kilometers, it'll sip about 15 kilomiles per 100 kilometers, translating to around 4.1 miles per kilowatt. That's pretty decent. But things get trickier when you crank up the heat, literally. Using the heater bumps up energy consumption to around 17.2 kilo per 100 kilometers, so you'll want to factor that in when planning longer trips. Speed is another major factor. The faster you go, the more juice you'll burn through. At 120 km/h, the Seagull's consumption shoots up to around 19 kilo per 100 kilometers. That's a big jump from its efficiency at slower speeds. It's not exactly surprising, but it's worth keeping in mind if you're a fan of highway driving. Heating and cooling systems also have an impact. For example, running a 2 kilowatt heater at 90 km/h can knock off about 25 km from your total range. It's not a deal breaker, but it's one of those little quirks that EV owners quickly get used to managing. The Seagull does have some tricks up its sleeve to help you get the most out of its battery.
The ice doesn't directly drive the wheels. Instead, it acts as a generator, producing electricity to charge the battery.
Regenerative braking is a big one. Every time you slow down or hit the brakes, the car captures some of that energy and feeds it back into the battery. This is especially helpful in city driving, where you're constantly stopping and starting. On highways, keeping your speed steady is another good way to stretch your range. Sudden accelerations might be fun, but they'll drain the battery faster than you might expect. But when it comes to maneuvering through the daily grind of city streets, the Seagull really shines. Great at handling city traffic. The BYD Seagull is a solid match for city life, with a bunch of features that make it perfect for weaving through traffic and handling all the chaos of urban driving. Its compact design is one of its biggest strengths. This thing is small enough to squeeze into tight parking spots or dart down narrow streets without breaking a sweat. You know those moments when you're circling the block looking for a spot and you see something that looks too tight? The Seagull fits right in, making it a dream for city dwellers. On top of that, it has a tight turning radius, which really shines when you're navigating crowded intersections or trying to make U-turns on narrow roads. If you've ever felt like a three-point turn takes forever in a bigger car, you'll appreciate how nimble the Seagull feels. It's like it was built for the stop-and-go rhythm of city traffic. Performance-wise, the Seagull knows how to handle itself. One of the perks of having an electric motor is that instant torque.
In parallel hybrid mode, both the ICE and the electric motor work together to drive the wheels.
It's ready to go as soon as you hit the pedal. That quick acceleration is a lifesaver in stop-and-go traffic. When the light turns green, or you need to merge into a gap, the Seagull doesn't hesitate. It can hit 50 km/h in just under 5 seconds, which might not seem like much, but it's more than enough for city driving. You're not racing anyone, but you'll never feel sluggish pulling away from a standstill. Handling is decent, though it's not going to blow anyone away. It's more of a gets the job done vibe. If you're expecting sporty, razor-sharp turns, this isn't the car for that. But for zipping around town and running errands, it's smooth and predictable. Some drivers have mentioned the ride can feel a bit bouncy, especially over rough patches or speed bumps, but it's not a deal breaker. Think of it as part of the charm of driving a lightweight city car. When it comes to efficiency, the Seagull continues to deliver. Its range is perfect for city commutes, with most real-world driving hitting over 80% of the stated range in good weather. That means less time worrying about finding a charging station and more time getting where you need to go. Plus, the regenerative braking system is a big help. Every time you slow down or stop, the car recaptures some of that energy and feeds it back into the battery. This is especially handy in stop-and-go traffic, where you're constantly braking.
Were the brakes. Normally an EV would have extremely grabby brakes because of the regenerative braking.
It's like the car's giving you a little bonus every time you hit the brakes. And speaking of cool features, The rotating touchscreen in the Seagull is one that really stands out. The rotating touchscreen. The BYD Seagull's rotating touchscreen
Android Auto is on, but it does rotate. That's actually pretty nifty.
is one of those features that feels small at first glance, but turns out to be a total game changer once you start using it. This 10.1-inch screen is all about versatility, letting you switch between landscape and portrait orientations depending on what you're doing. It's like having two screens in one, and the flexibility it offers is surprisingly practical. The way it works is super simple. You can rotate the screen with just the press of a button on the display itself, or if you're feeling fancy, you can use the controls on the steering wheel to do it. BYD has already used this feature in some of their other models, so they've got the functionality pretty well figured out. Whether you're looking at the screen horizontally or vertically, the transition is smooth and quick, which is exactly what you want when you're on the move. There are plenty of benefits to having a rotating screen. For one, if you're using navigation, portrait mode really shines. A vertical layout gives you a taller, more detailed view of the road ahead, making it easier to follow your route. No more squinting at tiny street names or second-guessing your turns. It's like having a giant map right in front of you. On the flip side, landscape mode works great for things like music apps or when you just want a wider, more spacious layout for your display. For apps in general, the screen's flexibility means most modern ones will adapt to whichever orientation you choose. While portrait mode feels intuitive for navigation and scrolling through longer menus, landscape mode is ideal for things like media playback or even gaming, if that's your thing. It's all about giving you options so you can use the car's infotainment system the way that works best for you. That said, there are a few limitations, though they're not deal breakers. For example, while the screen itself can rotate, some third-party apps like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay might not fully support portrait mode. It's a bit of a letdown if you're used to those systems, but it's also something that could improve over time as app developers adapt to this kind of feature. For now, it's just something to keep in mind if you're heavily reliant on those platforms. Now, let's talk about the charging options, because the Seagull makes it pretty easy to keep things powered up on the go. Charging option. The BYD Seagull makes charging simple and adaptable, no matter where you are or what kind of setup you have. Let's start with the basics. It supports both AC and DC charging, which is great because it means you're not limited to one type of charging option. If you're using an AC charger, you can go with single-phase power at up to 7 kV or three-phase power that ramps it up to 22 kV. The single-phase option is more common at home or smaller setups, while the three-phase gives you faster charging at places like public stations or well-equipped garages. If you're in a rush, the Seagull's DC fast charging is where it really shines. It can take your battery from 30% to 80% in just about 30 minutes. That's perfect for those quick coffee breaks or when you're running errands and don't have time to wait around. Full fast charging takes a little longer, about half an hour to get from empty to 100%, depending on the model and the charger's power.
Because you can easily, affordably, and relatively quickly recharge right at home.
For an EV at its price point, that's seriously impressive. For home charging, the Seagull makes things easy. Most people will use a standard wall charger, which takes around 4.3 to 5.6 hours to fully charge the battery. That's perfect for overnight charging. Just plug it in before you head to bed and you'll wake up to a fully charged car. If you've got a dedicated wall-mounted charger at home, the setup is even more convenient, but there are portable options too. Those are especially handy if you need a bit more flexibility, like charging from a friend's house or while staying somewhere without dedicated EV infrastructure. When you're out and about, public charging is a breeze. The Seagull works with Type 2 sockets, so you can plug into most public stations without a hitch. Whether you're running errands, shopping, or grabbing a meal, there's a good chance you'll find a compatible charger nearby. And if you're traveling, you can use portable travel chargers with standard Shuko sockets, which makes long-distance trips more feasible. For those who like options, the Seagull supports different kinds of charging cables and adapters to fit a variety of needs. If you're charging at home or a standard outlet, you need a bit more flexibility. Like charging, they're portable, lightweight, and versatile, making them ideal for everyday use. For more industrial setups or places where you need extra power, there are three-phase CEE chargers. These are excellent if you've got access to industrial sockets or need to juice up faster than usual. One of the best parts about the Seagull's charging capabilities is how seamlessly it fits into different lifestyles. Whether you're a city commuter, a road trip enthusiast, or someone just starting with EVs, the Seagull's charging flexibility has you covered. Need a quick top-up before heading out for the evening? DC fast charging is your friend. Want to keep things simple with overnight charging at home? It's got you there too. Even for longer journeys, portable travel chargers and widespread public charging compatibility ensure you're not left stranded.
You may hear this be called a trickle charge, as it takes a long time to fully charge the vehicle.
And if you're looking for an EV that's not just good for your wallet, but also for the planet, the Seagull's got you covered in more ways than one. Great for the environment. The BYD Seagull is a win for the planet in so many ways. Let's start with the big one: zero tailpipe emissions. This little electric car doesn't pump out any of the nasty stuff that gas-powered vehicles do, so you're not adding to the smog or pollution in the air. If you're cruising around a busy city, that means you're actively helping make the air cleaner for everyone. It's like giving your city a little breath of fresh air every time you drive. Then there's the climate angle. Transportation is a huge chunk of global greenhouse gas emissions, and by driving something like the Seagull, you're making a serious dent in that problem. No CO2 pouring out of your car means less impact on climate change, and that's a pretty great feeling. Sure, electricity production isn't always 100% green everywhere, but EVs are way more efficient than traditional cars. Plus, as more renewable energy comes online, the Seagull's impact just keeps getting better. Speaking of efficiency, the Seagull is ahead of the game with its battery tech. It uses lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are not only durable and cost-effective, but also safer and less harmful to produce than other battery types. These batteries don't rely as much on rare or hard-to-source materials, which makes them a smarter choice for the environment. They're designed to last, too, so you're not constantly swapping them out or creating extra waste. The Seagull's electric powertrain is another big plus. It's built for efficiency, meaning you get more range out of every charge while using less energy overall. That's better for your wallet and better for the grid. And the quieter ride. It's not just about comfort. It's a big deal for reducing noise pollution. Cities can be noisy, and EVs like the Seagull are helping tone that down. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next one.